And now it's time for a bit of a catch-up on the Daily Pilgrim channel with Alex's latest video log. Hello and welcome to what is a little bit of a catch-up video. Now, I haven't posted for quite a while. It's been extremely busy. I've had quite a milestone birthday and there's a few bits and pieces of news to update you with. So, first of all, you may have noticed that I'm not driving the camper van. That's because I don't own it anymore. The camper has gone to a new home. And I do have to say that I think the time had just come to naturally move on. You see, I had been using the camper as my one and only vehicle for about a year. Now, the car was getting older, the camper was getting older, and the cost of fuel was going up, and the amount of fuel that it was physically burning because of its age and what have you seems to be going up as well. The cost of driving that camper van each month was coming in at around £700 a month when I sold it just over 6 weeks ago. This little thing, this is a heck of a lot cheaper. I'll put that into perspective and say that when I went to Scotland the very first time back in February 22, I took the camper. Now at that point, I spent about £650 on fuel just to go to Scotland, round the little bit of the loop and back. When I went again in April, it only cost me £120 to do exactly the same trip. The last time I went to Scotland, just a couple of weeks ago, £150, obviously fuel prices have gone up and I went a slightly different route. But the point is, it was just getting so uneconomical to drive that camper, and I wanted to be going out now and doing, sort of adventures and stories and doing things with the channel and with my life and what have you. And I just felt that the camper was too cost prohibitive. I was never going to do anything. Even just going out for a day filming was going to be so quite a major cost. So the Up obviously is a lot smaller, but it is still a very comfortable car. It's extremely economical. There's less bits and pieces to go wrong with it, and it's newer. But it does mean that I can't take quite as much stuff as I used to. And indeed, it's not quite as easy to access everything. When you go out filming for the day, you can't just put everything in the back and get to it as you want. Everything's packed far more into its place, and it's more tricky to sort of get set up and what have you. Also, I can't sleep in it. Well, I suppose I could, but you can't realistically put your little home on your back. This is a car to go to hotels with. It's not even really big enough to put a tent in the back. So I have accepted all of that, and that's all fine. The only downside I would say with filming in this car is the passenger seat. In order to put the camera in the only decent position for filming whilst driving along, you've got to recline the passenger seat. So you certainly can't film with anyone else in the car. In the camper, that wasn't a problem. So whilst I am planning a few more trips, I need to get them in before the schools break up for holiday. I try wherever possible to avoid the school holiday time. Noah and I will do a variety of things and adventures during the holidays, I'm sure, but to go to seaside places and things like that, we do try and be quite careful, because we try and avoid that if we can, because it's just so busy, so many crowds, and it's not really very enjoyable if you're desperately fighting, for whatever it is you're trying to do, even just to go and get an ice cream on the seafront. So I may try and do a couple of little adventures. I think I've got 4 weeks left before they break up. It might even be 3 now, actually. It's 3 or 4. I'll have to check. But whichever it is, I need to get a few, few day trips, whatever, in before that hits. It was about a year ago now that I bought my electric bike, and I realised that I've done very little with it, and that's something that I'm hoping to try and change as well. Cost of fuel being what it is, even on this, it would be nice if I could have a little couple of day trips just on the bike. You know, I don't know how far I'd actually go, but I did think perhaps I could do something on the bike. You know, I've got the pannier packs and what have you. I just thought it'd be quite nice to go off an adventure. Now, yesterday I went to Tesco in Helen's electric car, and I saw that the fuel pumps were out of diesel, and I started to panic, because although this takes unleaded fuel, I started to think, the last time that happened, there was a run in Bicester on fuel. And it escalated quite quickly, because where the Tesco is on the roundabout, if people think that one's run out of fuel, there's a little Esso garage directly opposite, and so they go and they queue there. So you've then got very quickly 2 filling stations that are out of fuel, and everyone from miles around sees this because it's quite a thoroughfare. So they all start panic buying, and it just seemed to be a little bubble within Bicester. And I was actually going out for the evening last time this happened, and I couldn't get fuel, so I was quite worried. And sure enough, today when I left and came in this car, an absolutely huge queue at Tesco for fuel. Drove just up the road to the Shell garage, and it was a penny a litre more, which isn't the end of the world. Probably cost me 50p more to fill the tank up. But no queue at all. So I was sort of quite relieved by that, really. But it is a worry, and even with the cost of electricity at the moment as well. Even switching to electric kits, there's still a bit of a concern there. I do wonder if I'm going to end up actually changing some of my working practices, stopping doing work in certain areas, and maybe just use the bike in a sort of a localised area, and then the car just to go between Cheltenham and Buckinghamshire. But I'm hoping there's a lot more to come from the channel in the Now, the other thing that I'm very excited about, I mentioned that I had taken this little house in Cheltenham so that I could have somewhere to base myself with Noah when he's with me 3 or 4 days a week. And I've had this little house for about 6 weeks now, 7 actually, thinking about it, and it's absolutely lovely. It's a real little bachelor's den, actually. I will do a separate little video tour on it as soon as I've finished everything off and tidied everything up. But yes, it's a real bachelor pad, for the guys. And it's quite nice because I get to live obviously with Helen half the week, so that's a nice sort of family environment. But then Noah and I, we get our bachelor pad during the other 3 or 4 days, depending on how it falls during the week. So that's really good, actually. But I must confess that I haven't been shopping as much as I should have done, and we have relied, I'm afraid, a bit too heavily on takeaway food. So that needs to stop as from next week. So I think on that note, I'm probably going to sign off now and just continue the journey over to Cheltenham. As I said, I just wanted to do a little bit of an update. Not a lot to talk about, really. Musings about nothing in particular, but yes, I shall. So I'll sign off for now and say see you on the next one. Bye bye for now.